and they're talking about the next billion-dollar company is going to be 3 employees.
Mm-hmm.
They said it's going to be a CEO, a product person, and operators. The CEO's vision and product. The product person is getting things done, and then your operator that handles everything else. And then you're going to have a series of AIs. This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. So, Rob, this week, man, I want us to talk about whether or not we should be DIYing stuff, right? Do it yourself. And I got a couple of stories. So, and I know you got counterpoints because, you're a Marine and you guys show up in mass and, as a lawyer, you got a law firm. But I'm sitting on the edge of saying, I think you can create this thing by yourself. And I want to reference a couple things, everyone. So I'm listening to Peter Diamandis and Salim Ismail, and they're talking about the next billion-dollar company is going to be 3 employees.
Mm-hmm.
They said it's going to be a CEO, a product person, and operators. The CEO's vision and product. The product person is getting things done, and then your operator that handles everything else. And then you're going to have a series of AIs. I've been using AI pretty heavily lately, and I can see it. So what are you thinking, Rob? DIY or?
Again, I think that it's one of those things where, depending on how you tell the story, right? You've heard this term, this phrase throughout history, right? The self-made millionaire, right? And depending on where you start the story from, then yeah, they can be self-made, right? But nobody comes into this world by themselves, right? You don't make it through childhood by yourself. Like there's no self-made person in reality, and it's all about where you choose to tell the story from. And I think that in a lot of these businesses, what they're talking about, right? You can come up with an idea by yourself. You can use AI. You can do a lot of challenges, but what a lot of that is outsourcing. It's not um, it's not the same thing. So, for example, if you're doing delivery, if you're doing all the rest of that, all of that logistic stuff is being handled by another company that's not part of your company, and so it's not. So
So you're
for
saying you're not
me,
truly by yourself.
exactly right. I think that it sounds sexy. It sounds really cool to say, I did this all by myself. It's only one employee, but really what you're doing is leveraging other people's companies to do your company's work, which if you say that that's one employee, that's perfectly fine, right? Like, but what is once companies scale, once companies grow and all the rest of that, what's the magic formula of growth and scaling to get to the Fortune 100, Fortune 1000 level? It's vertical integration. So right, you own everything, because what you can do then is you can work economies of scale in each one of those areas. Everywhere that you get productivity increases, now that all hits to the bottom line. So in the beginning, though, I think it's important to think about it from our solopreneur, entrepreneur kind of space. When you're starting your business, yes, you can build a business of 7 figures, 8 figures, right? And if it's a subscription style business, you have an 8-figure business that has a 9-figure valuation. If you can grow that to a 9-figure business, now that has a 10-figure valuation, right? So those are the types of things that I think that are possible. But I think it's a lot of story craft in my mind. It's not actually on the ground. There's only one person doing everything. No, that's
Yeah.
not how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. And, it's just been a fascination of mine because I like to move in my own way.
Mhm.
Right now, obviously, there's a lot of value, but it's just been kind of on my mind lately because I'm watching how my productivity has more than 10x, and that's just applying it in small areas. And I look around and I go, okay, I've got my Chat GPT, I got OpenAI, and then now I've got my other products, right, Sonic, and I've got multiple products, and I find myself literally, and I'm keeping an eye on time as well while I'm doing this. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm using one to check the other. Is this right? Come up with a nice little thing in Chat GPT, then I'll take that and say, throw it over here and write Sonic. And I look at the interfaces in these AIs, And I'm just seeing, wow, you can spin something up in a very major way. Is then the new business model. So I guess this is what it leads to is this going to be the new business model, being able
I
to do
think
this? Now,
100%.
here's
Yes.
something that we may have no choice but to realize. And this is something that I noticed that Google is doing, and I've been doing some research on it. Google is now competing against you with
Interesting.
their new SGE, right? This is their Google search experience with generative ID. They got it all backwards, SGE, whatever. But their search experience with their generative AI approach, not Google Bard, but they're trying, it seems as if they're trying to figure out how to do this, giving you information, but at the same time doing ads. They're bread and butter. So what I've noticed is that how you would, do organic, do a nice long uh, blog on, explanation of, article about a subject matter that somebody searched. Now, as an SEO person, that's bread and butter stuff, right? You go, okay, my stuff will rank higher. The whole idea that I can get to the first place on Google is because I put out some good content and they picked it up. Now they're first, right? And in their SG, if you've got that particular that extension or whatever, no, it's not an extension, but if you're using it, it will show the answer first and then push down all the organic stuff, even ads. So people out there are freaking out right now. People that are in the information creation space are going, oh my gosh, they've killed my business. And we're seeing a lot of businesses go 30, 40, 50% of
Yeah, I
search
mean,
results being affected. If
it
search
makes it,
results
it
equal
makes
money.
sense. I mean, one of the things, and I talk about Darren Hardy all the time. One of the things that he talks about so often is you have to get your crowd onto your platform as quickly as possible.
Yep,
You
that's
can't,
it.
as a business owner, you can't have the main way that people find you be Google or be Facebook or be Instagram or be whatever. Because what you basically have done is you've ceded control of your audience to those platforms. Now, and people saw this in COVID time and everything. If the platform is neutral or not paying attention or whatever, like you used to be able to put anything on YouTube, right? I remember there was a time when like there'd be naked stuff on YouTube and it wouldn't come down for like a week or whatever. People would be
Right.
like, "Oh my God!" Right? Like all of that type of stuff would, and it was, and then it'd be all over the news. Like, how did this happen? Right? Because YouTube wasn't monitoring nothing. They were like, "Psh, throw stuff up there. We want you to throw more stuff up there because it was
Mm-hmm.
building their brand." And any news was good news at that point in time, right? So they didn't have monitors and all the rest of that. But then you saw the pandemic happen, and you saw what started happening, right? And they started doing this on Twitter. They started doing this on YouTube. They started doing this on Facebook. They started having monitors, and they were airing more on the side of not angering their advertising base and their kind of constituency,
Mm-hmm.
vocal constituency base.
Mm-hmm.
And so during the election and thereafter, right, they would pull stuff down at the slightest hint of impropriety.
Yeah. You mentioned
And it
Andrew
was
Tate, your stuff's coming down.
exactly, and it was dramatically impacting people's businesses because you have to fight with them and argue with them and say, no, 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 I didn't do it. And then that can be a 2 to 3 to 5 week to maybe 3 month process to get your stuff back up, especially if you're not doing millions of dollars in ad revenue or AdSense, ad spends with YouTube. So that existed because people's main source, excuse me, of revenue, main source of eyeballs, main source of views was YouTube.
Mhm.
Always remember that when you're on somebody else's platform, you're on somebody else's platform. It's like when you live in somebody else's house. Like you can act like you got a home, but you don't. Like if you make them mad, you homeless again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing that people have to realize until you have your own. And so I think that in all of this stuff that people are doing, it's really important um to set it up so that whatever your business is, if you're using AI, if you're doing all the rest of that type of stuff, like you really need to start thinking about like for those people that are doing the $1 billion AIs and all the rest of that, if AI work becomes a major component of what I'm doing, I'm having to think about, how do I start, and this is again vertical integration. How do I go hire a programmer to build me an AI for my business
Right.
instead of
Yeah.
constantly using an AI over here that if they
That's the
change
play.
something, now it messes up a core central tenet of my business.
Yeah. It's like something on a in kind of a smaller way is I really got into carbonated water, right? And I was like, oh man, mineral water with carbonation, this stuff is great because I don't like water, but I gotta have water because I'm on the lion's
Kind of
diet and
important.
the whole thing. So you gotta really be um, moisturizing your insides, if you will, right? Staying refreshed and all this kind of stuff. But I can't stand water. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
so I found carbonated water and I thought, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I drink more of it, so I'm going through carbonated water like crazy. And I'm trying different brands and I got bottles everywhere. And then I got to take the bottles back, get my 20 cents, whatever, depending on where you live, or 10 cents, right? So this became a mess. So I thought, why don't I just buy my own carbonation machine? Right? I can make my own. So, popped on the Amazon and bought me a soda stream. And bro, let me tell you, I love it. And this is why a lot of people love their soda stream. Soda stream is a really, really bomb company. It's easy to use. Now the game, of course, is the cartridges. So you kind of see, okay, I
Exactly.
see here. I can't make my own CO2. So, but I did enough to say, I'm going to do it myself. This is the DIY part, right? And to your point, creating your own AI and integrating it into your business is, I think, where it's going. And OpenAI says, hey, look, you just pay for the pipe. So that then speaks to the AWSs of the world who have that kind of business. It's like, okay, there can be whole businesses spun up just using the ability to build your own AI, right? We're seeing a lot of no code stuff. And I've been just dipping into it for real. And I'm going, you know what? This is the approach, because otherwise you will suffer. Everyone, listen to what I'm saying next. Platform risk.
Yes, is
Platform
a
risk is
real
it
thing.
it just ran a business that was a on Reddit, who used he had a business, he was making like 500 grand a year doing a good book of business, and all he had was a um a tool that Redditors use to do their Reddit stuff better. Reddit comes along and says, you know, OpenAI trained its model on our stuff and they didn't pay us. So from going forward, we're going to charge any third party people that are using our stuff on our platform. Going to charge you a whole bunch of money. And it was like some stupid amount, like $10 million. This is what it's going to cost you because of what. Now this guy is out of business and other people peeled off. So now platform risk reared its ugly head. So this kind of drives back to the,
Yeah.
should you do it yourself in to the degree that you can, because you can reduce your risk.
Right. And to that point, I think one of the things that we have to realize, and I think your story about the carbonated water is really apropos for this, right? So many people are looking for the quick solution. And I think that's the one thing that I want to kind of, if you take anything from what we're talking about today, I hope you take this. There's a process to this, and there's work that has to be done, because there's a point where you don't know enough to do it yourself. You
That's
have
good.
to go through and learn enough in the process to realize where the benefits are, where those types of things are. And so I don't want to give using other people's platforms a bad name, right? I use YouTube, I have Instagram, I have Facebook, I have all these things. But here's what I know, that I am very aware that when those things start generating significant funds, my job then becomes to study them so that I can figure out how to do them on my own. The only reason I haven't studied them to figure out how to do them on my own right now is like I'm not making a ton of money on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. I don't even have a Twitter page. One of my marketers, he was like, "We got to get you a Twitter page." I'm like, "Okay, we'll figure that out." Right? But
Well, there's some new Twitters. There's Threads. Then there's some black-owned
mm-hmm.
alternatives that's coming up. Twitter, in my opinion, probably will die.
It's very interesting. You're
That's going to be
betting
a
against
$44 billion
Elon Musk.
loss.
You're betting against Elon Musk. I just don't think that's
Yeah,
a great.
but I'm looking
prospect.
at Elon Musk's running businesses, and I've been digging in a little bit. Right, he got thrown out of PayPal because they said that they didn't like the way he was doing stuff. He was he got thrown out. I don't disagree with you,
but he
he
got thrown right. He got thrown out after they had grown it to $1 billion.
When Shotwell runs the businesses,
right?
She's running the business. She ain't running. So the things that he puts his hands on, he ruins. Or I'm kind of thinking, brilliant guy. However, I believe in its current format, man, he's getting so much competition now. They're 25. Facebook comes out with Threads. 25 million people sign up in a week.
Right. And
25 million from
I hear you.
Twitter.
I hear you. And if you think about it, though, Twitter has a billion people on Twitter. It's not like it's, yes, 25 million got it, all the rest of that, but 25 million out of $1 billion, it's not a big number. When you look at, this is the thing that I would say in that space. And again, I am not an expert by any means at this. So let me say that disclaimer right now. But one thing that I know, you can look at Steve Jobs got kicked out of Apple. And what happened after Steve Jobs left? If you look at PayPal,
went and matured. That's what happened.
What happened? No. What happened to Apple? What happened to PayPal after Elon Musk left? Stripe and Square actually became competitors, and Venmo was there. Now there's actually PayPal isn't the behemoth in the space. There's a number of different competitors in the space, right? The thing that I would have you look at is, and yes, he's matured. He realizes he doesn't run Twitter now. He's got a CEO that's in Twitter. He started and cleaned house, and he can be the bad guy because he's good at that. But then pay very close attention to every business that he's been, and not every because he's had failures, but the businesses that he puts his stamp on, he goes in and transforms things. And everybody's looking at Twitter and, oh my God, its revenues are down and blah, blah, blah. But he cut expenses by 2/3.
He's not even paying rent.
But here's the thing. He cut expenses by 2/3, which means that you can drop revenues by 2/3 and still be breaking even. But revenues have only dropped by what, 20%, 30%?
Yeah.
Now everybody's like 20%, 30% is great, but 20%, 30%, so 1/3 drop in revenue means that they just doubled profits. Just saying.
Okay. I just think he needs to get his hands off the wheel. And
he doesn't have his hands on the wheel. He's got a CEO that he hired and is there.
Go be vision and product. Get your other people. Like he's doing, maybe like that's what he's doing. Maybe that's what he's doing. He's just not doing it fast enough.
Look what we did with SpaceX. Look what we did with Tesla. At the end of the day, and again, like this is one of my pet peeves. I'm gonna hit you with this one, right? I know that I haven't run $1 billion company. Now I know, Randy, you've done some amazing things in your life.
I haven't run $1 billion company. No. So we should just stay out of the $1 billion company running space. Is that what you're talking?
Okay. What I'm saying is, when you say that he's not doing it fast enough, I'm like, that's a little bit presumptuous of ourselves, are we?
The very thing that I'm talking about. He's a DIYer. He's like, look, I can sit there with my brilliance and I can conjure up things. But I think to your point, perhaps if I don't get something around me.
Yeah, I think to your point, he's the articulation of what we've been talking about. Like there's a piece of it that you can do by yourself, but and this doesn't get as much fanfare. Elon Musk is really good at realizing, all right, I need people to do this because I don't need to do that. I don't need to be in this. I'm doing this part over here. You do this over here. Like you said, his executive assistant, CEO, chief of staff runs a lot of the stuff in a lot of those companies. And she's been with them for what, 15, 20 years now. And at the end of the day, that's the part that a lot of DIYers don't get. there's this pride in doing it yourself such that you feel like I can't get a team. Otherwise, I'm not an entrepreneur anymore. I'm not a do it myself anymore. And it's like, no, you have to understand the progression of a business. You may have the idea, you may be able to do all the stuff yourself for a time. And we were just talking about this off camera, right? There are phases of business, and there's a phase of business that becomes scale and grow, and you don't scale and grow by yourself. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
That kind of
And
gets me
if
back to
you
what
do
Gerber
try to
talks about,
say it,
right? He says,
right. And if you
you're the
do try
worst
to
boss
scale and
ever.
grow, your worst boss ever. And if you do scale and grow, try to scale and grow by yourself, you've created the worst job ever. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Running $100 million company when it's just you that can run it means that you can't do nothing but run $100 million company.
That's
You can't
interesting.
go on vacation. You can't take weeks off. You can't go to this conference. You can't do none of that type of stuff because you have to run $100 million company. You can't get sick.
Yeah.
Right? The whole concept, and Robert Kiyosaki talked about this in Cash Flow Quadrant. The whole difference between a big business and a small business is not how much money they make. Biggest difference between a big business and a small business is if the owner of a small business goes away for a year, the business goes away.
Mm.
If the owner of a big business goes away for a year, the business will grow.
Well, there you have it, everybody. This is the conversation. This is why I wanted to get on here and talk about it. I have an approach of like, look, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and go build this thing yourself and suffer through all of the stuff that happens and have a okay company, one that lives and dies with you, or create an opportunity where it has inputs that extend past you.
Exactly. And I think,
DIY or team that thing.
And you know me, I'm never a tyranny of the or person. I believe in the both and. And the experience is you can do DIY for everything has a season, everything has a purpose, everything has a time, right? You can do DIY for a while. But you have to have an understanding of what are you trying to build? Are you trying to build a job or are you trying to build a business? If you're trying to build a business, the definition of a business is an enterprise that provides value at a lower rate than it costs them to provide that value, right?
Yeah.
So it provides value to customers. It provides value to customers and is able to charge a higher rate than it costs them to produce that value.
Yeah.
That is not person centric. That is not individual centric. That is the enterprise, however you configure it. And if that is to scale, it is, if you're going to actually have a business enterprise, it's going to be bigger than you. You're going to need more people. You're going to have more customers than you can fulfill. Are you prepared for that? Are you working towards that end?
That's
Are you
interesting.
setting up what you need to be a business owner rather than to be somebody that has a nice job?
That
Right?
right
Rather
there
than be
probably
self-employed.
is a podcast in itself. So hey, what do y'all think? Let us know in your comment section if we're full of canal water here, one of us, and you can point us out, or given the fact that AI is coming on and it's doing its thing and it's going to get just even better, can we build, run, scale a big business with just a couple of people? Will it come to pass that the next billion-dollar company is going to be? Now, this is something that I noticed. They didn't say necessarily ran by, but that's going to be started by no more than 3 people.
And that's the thing.
Let us know in the comments, y'all.
Yeah, I think that like I said at the beginning, I think that it's storycraft. Now you tell the story. You and I read Ryan Daniel Moran's book, 12 Months to a Million, and it's the same idea, right?
Yeah,
You build a
yeah.
business with a couple of people, and it can get to $1 million run rate pretty quickly, right? And that business's whole job is to be acquired. Now, eventually, it'll be $1 billion business, but it wasn't $1 billion business with the 3 people that started it.
That's interesting. That was before AI, however.
And that was
So let's see
before
how
AI.
these inputs. What are y'all doing right now? How are y'all integrating and using it to create something
I want to see how
interesting?
people are. I want to see and put in the comments. Somebody talk about some stories or things that you've done that have allowed you to remove a cost or a person from your business by using AI. So if it's, I know for me, there's a lot of marketing stuff that I've been doing using AI, and it is right. I can build an entire marketing plan using AI. I can do a bunch of different things so that I don't need to hire a marketer to do that on the front end or different things like that. I want to hear
Yeah.
stories from you all about what are some jobs that you have replaced or dramatically minimized using
Yeah.
AI in the space. That'll
It,
be something I want to
and
hear
I'm gonna
from.
write something about this, y'all. I don't know. I've got it on a piece of paper here, and it says I'm firing them all, and then I'm gonna list, right. And I read a book called "Fire Them All," it's something like that, but it was talking about marketing teams, right? Because if they're not effective, they're not making you money or whatever. And this guy was a political marketer. He says we got to get results for the candidates, or we're fired. So he's saying fire all your marketing people that don't give you these kind of assurances, right? So I'm looking at this and I'm going, do I need my personal trainer?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, because I can create my own plan now. And then I thought, as a business consultant, and do I need myself? No, because I just came up with these things. I just the other day, I've been doing a lot of landing pages and stuff like that. So I'm in a program and it says, would you like to create a landing page? I was like, yes, of course I would. So it says, well, upload your brand colors and stuff like that, and we'll create it for you. So I'm like, you will? So I uploaded it. Boom. It created a decent one, enough for me to go, I like that. And what I uploaded was a book. I uploaded a book, and and it just created the whole little thing. And it was like, oh, this is nice. It got cut. It pulled from the colors. The next one that I used just recently, same thing. It says, would you like to create a landing page? First, it gives you all the language. It asks you questions. It prompts you. It says, okay, what's the description? What is this about? It gave me my brand voice. It says, based on what you said, or you can put in your URL, and it says, based on what we've been able to find from your page, this is how you're a compassionate leader, all these different things. I was like, oh my gosh. And I've
Nice.
already used it to make money. Somebody asked me, Randy, could you look at this and da da da? And I'm like, okay, I'll look at it. I just went to put in her website, send her the information. So my point here is you can use something like this to augment, and this is something that
Yes.
Ismail talked about, right? Salim Ismail talked about. He says to 100x augment your abilities,
Mm-hmm.
which led him to believe that it's only going to be a 3-person company and a multitude of AIs working for you, doing things.
Yep. Yep.
So I'm getting to that point where I'm going, oh my gosh, because I have an insight and discernible eye, I can look and say that's good. Or I can look at it and go, this is no good. But in the meantime, it has wiped out an hour's worth of doing something. And as a productivity person, Rob, you can appreciate that.
Exactly.
That's
That's
the
the whole thing.
question we have out there right
I
now,
think the
everyone.
AI is definitely going to make people more productive. I don't disagree at all. I've already seen it. I've already done it. I'm using it. I'm so to be clear, I just want to make sure everybody understand. I'm not one of the AI like naysayers. I think AI is going to revolutionize the way we do things. I just think that some people are, going a little bit overboard. It's like, oh my God, it's going to replace everybody. I'm like, nah,
I went
that does
to
not
a
work.
site that it was in kind of a big research site. So it got based on working with AI, and I got an insight. Now, this is speaking to Rob, you going off and doing stuff. You go out there and do stuff before you go out there and start talking about what's bad. So I was in this I'm doing a piece of information or looking at a piece of information, and I get an insight, and it gives me, I says, AI, what? I says, you're based on 3 years past, or your information only goes up to 2021. This is OpenAI. And I says, I need something that's more real time. What do you suggest as places that can give me real time information on what's happening and it gave me like 5 different things, 4 of which were like, not that. But then one, I says, that's interesting. So I go over there to it. And on there, I type it. It's a math kind of what's coming, white papers, and all these different things, right? And I'm looking at this thing and I'm going, this is interesting, right? I type in LLMs, large language models, and then it gives me just slew of information. So now I take that information, I see something that I like, I search it out, and I see that this is pretty popular. Then I take that information back to AI and says, what could I create from this piece of information based on this white paper? What would you suggest? And it came up with some really good stuff. And I said, now I'm going to be using no code because I'm not a coder. I'm a DIYer. I'm doing it myself. What would you suggest? How long would it take? And then it gave me some information. So I'm sitting there going, okay, now here's what I want to stop and say. This AI is going to make you realize how lazy you really are. It's going to make you realize you weren't never going to do this, which is a business opportunity. Y'all listening, it's a business opportunity for you. Think about this. People know what to do. You know what to do to lose weight. You know what to do to stop smoking. You know what to do to stop cheating. You know what to do, but will you do it?
Exact. That's the thing.
That's what the AI is going to tell you the answer, but will you put it into place? That's it. A business opportunity. Y'all hear it? So you walk alongside of people that says, I'm going to help you implement.
And that's the thing. There has not been, and I think there's going to be tools that people are going to create that are going to be able to utilize the AI with the inputs to think about it quickly and everything, but there's still going to be the need for that. My personal belief, there's still going to be the need for that human interface, because what AI cannot be for you is that kind of partner slash, and not even so much the word, but like we're social creatures, right? It can't be that partner. Like, now, maybe when AI gets to the level of Jarvis, right? Tony Stark's, right? Jarvis AI, maybe, because like he could actually have conversations with Jarvis, and Jarvis could actually give witty comebacks and all the rest of that type of stuff, like he was actually thinking. But until it gets to that level, I personally don't see.
Yeah. So that means we got about less than 5 years. Because Apple is coming out with the iPro, where you can interact visually, you can see it, and then you can, with your hands pull the information in.
Yeah, I give it 2030, 2035. I think that's when we're gonna see. That's when we're gonna see it. Yeah, 2030, between 2030 and 2035. I think that's when you're gonna start to see a real boom in well, technically that's 8 years, 7 to 10 years, but I think that's when you're gonna see a tremendous boom. Because there's still a lot of the stuff right now that they're trying to figure out. Like, there's a robot right now that can kind of do that back and forth and have a conversation, but it's limited and all the rest of that. But I think that there will come a time when it will be mass, right? Like kind of the way Siri is right now. We talk to Siri and it's like, well, I think I found this. Like, it's kind of in the infancy stage. I think you give it another 10 years and it's going to be,
it'll be ubiquitous. All right, hey everyone, that's all I had. I just wanted to get into this conversation because I'm going knee deep into doing stuff myself, build up that multi whatever company. Yeah. And I'll report out when I get there. How's that?
There we go. All right. Have a great one, everybody.